Boom.
Boom.
We are back. A little time off. I was out becoming a better leader, and Mike was answering 9,000 questions about college football for the last week and a half.
And
And
being called every name in the book about
oh, I
everything.
well, I just thought that was just par for the course. So
It's worse now, though, because Florida State fans are back. They've sucked for a very long time. And now they beat LSU, and they're acting like they beat Alabama and won the national championship. So, I said that Norvell would probably not make it through the season, and I couldn't find 6 wins in the schedule. So now that they're 2-0, people decided to tell me to go kill myself.
pleasant people. That's all
Yeah.
right. At least you're not like me running run the pickleball tournament coming up this weekend where I understand how registration can be difficult because you're dealing with a little older demographic, but I for 100 registrants, which is great. It's great. First tournament, great. It's great to have 100, but 100 registrants. Like if I got this many emails on a NUC sports camp for 100 registrants,
Yeah.
I would probably have to take a plunge off a cliff.
Yeah. Yeah. And the funny part is, the older demographic has less to do, and it's easier to schedule your life. Obviously, parents with kids trying to schedule a Sunday going to a camp or a Saturday going to a camp, they got to juggle all sorts of things, sports and activities, and
Other
you know
kids,
the
other
other,
kids.
yeah, other kids and stuff. The older demographic should be just like, yeah, I'm not doing anything that day. I'll be there, but it's not how
Pretty
it works
funny.
in
Pretty
life.
funny. But let's get to the nuts and bolts of we've
Yeah.
been churning out some great content on players that have been involved in our D1 promo program. I mean, Parker Meese going through the roof. I mean,
Yeah, the linebacker from Texas. He's getting a lot of traction. Is Rauner from Nebraska.
Browner.
Yeah, it's the fun part of the promo because now we got film. The off season's great. Love it. Workout videos, 7-on-7 videos, summer training videos, all that stuff. Love it. It's important to stay on the radar through those months because you will drop off and never get back again. So it's a constant nudge, to coaches that I'm still here. I'm still working. Ben Hartman's got new video. There's a lot of guys that have real game film now. So now you get something that you can really promote. So I love the off season. I love football season, but I really do like, being able to promote actual helmet pads football.
Absolutely. And some of our guys are Chase Enlow was sophomore for the short conference player of the week, ran for like 120 or something like that, and a win. I mean, he's only a sophomore, and I mean, just looked wow. I mean, I had him on a club team. I thought he was really good, but you have a lot of younger kids in that group, and just seeing him on varsity, just starting. I mean, for right
Yeah.
away.
And I got this email from Cade Kennedy, who's another,
Oh
one of
yeah,
our players. And it was funny, because I understand what he's saying. He's like, he got ranked by an organization I'd never heard of. So he got a 3-star ranking from them. Uh, I have asked both Rivals and 24/7 to be ranked via an email, but no success or response so far. He's not going to get a response, and I'll let him know that. I'm very upfront with people. No, it's not going to. Like until you get offers, they're not going to rank you. Unless you know somebody, and I can't get you ranked. I think 24/7 people probably still hate me. I'm certainly not going to ask Rivals for anything, having departed there after 24 years, and I can't get you ranked. But you're not going to get ranked that way either because, blind emails to these services, unless you're, and this speaks to my Arch Manning thing, like Arch Manning, let's say he was Cade Kennedy and he was emailing people just for fun. He would be ignored, you know. Now, if his email said, I'm the nephew of Peyton and Eli, uh, the grandson of Archie, and I have 50 offers, he would get a response. immediately. But they're not going to look at your film and they're not going to care. So, that's why the promotion is extremely important. And it's one of those things. It's funny. It's like sometimes you get backed up. I mean, I got backed up as you saw this week. You know, um, Tamiris Williams from Lee County that you just did last night. I got backed up and I didn't do it. And I got a nudge, which was great to get it done. And because I was backed up, I'm going to give him a little bit of extra promotion just for free. And then staying in contact with Ethan Vilmaca, who's killing it out there early in his career.
Awesome.
Or Marshall X father Brock. The kid, he played JV and he got into varsity and they just made him hand the ball off, but he was running for his life in JV. And, he was saying, I don't know if you'd want to use that. We want to use everything. If you have no offensive line, and I think it's Rauner, is it Rauner, the one who was running for his life last year?
Yeah, although this year it looks like they really got it shored up.
Yeah, we finally got film on him that we could put out there, which is great. And I'm going to be doing that hopefully this week too. But last year's running for his life, but it showed athleticism. It showed things that people didn't think he had in the tool bag, and escapism and all that stuff. That's what they want. So really the only bad film you can send as a quarterback are pick sixes and then bad throws and interceptions and such. But
Right.
you never see those on highlights anyways. That's why evaluating kids over the years is funny because you can't ever go on a quarterback's highlight tape ever. Not ever, ever, ever. Because on that highlight tape, let's say there's 25 throws. Guess what? They're 25 for 25, all of them dimes, and no bad passes. You have to dig in and look to actually what's happening. You look at Spencer Rattler's line for South Carolina this week against Georgia State. 1 touchdown, 2 picks. Everybody said he struggled, and I don't think he was great. But you go back and watch that game a little bit, and you see one of the picks went right through the hands of his wide receiver, and it's not his fault. So you have to dig in on film. But really, any exposure is good exposure, is what I say in this. Not in my life, but as a prospect trying to get attention, it's good.
Then you can go to myfootballcamps.com/D1 or nucsports.com/D1. And we got some new things coming for you. Me and Mike are teaming teaming together on a Winterfest camp that's soon to be coming out. It's out, but we haven't really launched it. And then so stay tuned for that. I mean, that's a rarity. You're gonna have me and Mike in the same building probably for the first time in 13
Oh,
years. I
no,
would say
more than that. I
more
think
than that.
the last NUC camp I went to was before Barry Every got hired by you. So when Barry was hired in the late 2000s at Rivals, I'd stopped going to NUC camps. I didn't have to because he was at every one of them.
He was at all.
So I think the last one I went to was your one in Delaware, believe it or not, at what's the name of that school?
Oh yes, the Red Lion School.
So that must have been late 2000s. And I'm
Sills
trying to
was
think.
probably 8th grade, I think, or
Who?
not 8th.
Yeah, Sills. Sills was in 8th grade. Yeah, so because he was there. The whole Red Lion group. They won. I think they won your tournament that year, and he was. I think he might have been a 9th grader or an 8th grade. But that whole Red Lion group, the coach was awesome.
Yep.
The kids were great. They were fun. That was the last time. After that, you got to remember that after that, I started the VTO camps for Rivals. And I was not competing with you, but I had my new focus on running camps from 0 entries to turning that into Under Armour, and then that moved to Adidas, and now the camp's kind of dying and fizzling. But that was the peak of campdom, and I stopped going to your camps to run my own camps, and it's funny too because we were charging $85 a pop or something like that, and I was getting like Stefan Diggs came to the camp and paid. That's one example. There were first round kids that were paying $85 back in the late 2000s to actually go to camps, and now they won't even go to camps if they're getting free gear, invitations to all-star games. Not money, but I mean, you could put money in a bag, they wouldn't show up. So it's a different world in getting elite kids to go to camps now.
Yeah, that's it. I think you're more in the emerging prospect realm for the most part. in a
Which
lot
is
of
what you started,
which
remember?
is what we started.
Right. So
Really,
it's
what we originally started was really what's
full circle.
come back full circle as to
Yeah.
exactly what it really is the emerging prospect thing. It's like, we found Johnny Manziel, Marcus Mariota, we had Stefan Diggs, we had all these guys right when they were like, coach was like, this kid's going to be a guy, like, and yet they hadn't yet got an offer, or maybe they have one. Maybe if they had one today's day and age, if they have one, they're probably not coming. But like if they had maybe one at the time, they were like a freshman or they were a sophomore, and they just played varsity or something, and that's what it was, and that's what it's back
Yeah.
to.
Well, and it's more fun to
It
me.
is.
It got into the situation of, obviously calling in favors and relying on your relationship with kids. Not only because at that time we also partnered with the Army Bowl, which is now the NBC Bowl. You know, and there was direct competition because the Under Armour game started right around 2007, I think. There was direct competition to get kids to the proper All Star games. And the funny part about it is that I mentioned Diggs, but Kendall Fuller as well, who's a good counsel, and Dorian O'Daniel, and I think all these guys are still in the NFL. They were good counsel kids. They were extremely loyal to me for whatever reason. Maybe I was nice to them. Maybe they liked me. I don't know. But from eighth grade on, those good counsel kids. Good counsel was an Under Armour undeniable school or something. What that means is Under Armour was a sponsor of the school and provided all their gear and money for the program. And I was working for the Army at the time, and Diggs and Fuller and Dorian O'Daniel all had committed to the Army Bowl. And Coach Mallory was the head coach of Good
Coach
Counsel back then.
Mallory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was trying to flip those guys to Under Armour because he was under extreme pressure. I mean, these are Maryland kids at an Under Armour undeniable school. Um, and he couldn't get them to go to Under Armour because they were loyal to me for some reason. And what happened is Kevin Plank, the CEO of Under Armour, I don't think he is anymore, but he went into that school and he sat down with these three kids trying to get them in the Under Armour game. And they each told him that, no, I'm loyal to Mike Farrell and I'm going to play in the Army Bowl. And Kevin Plank placed a phone call to his Under Armour partners and said, who the hell is this Mike Farrell person? And Under Armour contacted Rivals immediately after that, and we were owned by Yahoo. And we ended up having Under Armour camps within a year, 2 years. And that's kind of how it works in this business. It's like loyalty to that level. When you got a CEO who's a billionaire sitting there in front of these kids telling you, I'll do anything for you to get to Under Armour game, and they say no to you, it really makes people notice. So that's kind of the fun part of the backstory of some of this stuff. And it's funny because you see some people fade away, when you go independent, and then you see some people come back in your life, like you.
Mm.
And when Mike Farrell Sports becomes successful, and we just signed a deal with Sports Illustrated last week, we announced there's going to be a lot of those guys that are going to come back and say, "Oh yeah, how you doing, man?" Slap me on the back, and I'm going to tell them to go to hell because I'm too old. I'm too old to play games anymore. So you're either with me or against me. Who's was that in a movie?
Well, I'm sure it was. I've heard it a million times. You're either with me or against me. I just don't know.
It's got to be from like the 1600s or the Men of Troy, even way back. But yeah, you're either with me or against me type of and that's what this promo is about. Like if we're with you, we're not against you ever. But I'm getting tagged constantly in week 1 and week 2 highlight films from Huddle from kids. Tagged constantly because they see the promotions that the other kids are going to get. And I DM them and I say, hey, if you want this type of promotion, sign up. But you're not going to get free retweets. I mean, that's just not the way it works in life anymore. So, the kids who are on board with this, I think they're all very satisfied with it. They're not getting, a lot of them aren't getting the results they hope for because everybody hopes for, that Kurt Warner story, where you go from bagging groceries to being a Super Bowl guy and someone discovers you. And, but they're getting steady, solid interest, and that's going to lead them to one step, which can lead them to the next step, to the next step. So I haven't got any complaints. Everybody's been happy.
No, it's great. It is a process, and that's what you don't go from nowhere to somewhere. So you got to go to somewhere first, then you go become something,
And
right? So,
it's exhausting. Don't you get tired sometimes?
as far
Like
as what?
just burnt out, like on a daily basis. Like there's so much to do, and then listen, it lasts for like an hour, and then I get re-energized. But there are times
Yeah.
where
Well,
I
you know
just
what
have
I
to.
do, Mike? I'll give you the Dave Schuman
Okay, go ahead.
tip of the year for the guy who works around the clock,
It better
right?
not be illegal narcotics.
There's no illegal narcotics.
All right, good.
I'll sit in front of my computer and I get this feeling sometimes, and it's like your eyes just go, Dave, close your eyes, right?
Yeah,
And I'm telling you this, I do one of two things. I either if I'm on my computer and I know that like I really can only afford to have 20 minutes maybe, and I sit there, I have a nice comfortable chair to have at my desk. So I just sit there, I just close my eyes. Now I can do this. Not everybody can. I close my eyes 20 minutes, wake up, I'm refreshed, sitting
oh, come
right
on.
at my seat. I
I
do it.
can't do that. No one can do that. You can
I
do
I can
that.
do it.
I
And,
can't.
and then the other thing I do is then my son has this like I don't know. You ever see these really huge beanbag things? You know what I'm saying? Where he sits on it to play video games.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Yep.
yeah, so what I'll do is I'll put my little like sleep thing on my whatever they call it on your phone, sleep thing or on your watch, and I'll set a time for 30 minutes. I'll lay on that beanbag thing. It's very comfortable, but it's not so comfortable that you could sleep hours. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? It's comfortable enough that you just boom, you pass out, and 30 minutes later, and then I come back and I'm right back to work. That's how I do it. That's my
Mm-mm.
productivity secret. A lot of people can't do that,
Mm-mm.
but that's my productive. It
No.
allows me to just like you'll see me sometimes at 1:30 in the morning on there. That's the only way I could do it,
Yeah.
and I get up at 6:30, so
Ugh.
I
See,
get up.
my biggest problem is not work ethic or any of that. It's overwhelm. It's I want to
Yeah,
do 50 things and I don't prioritize well, and I've got ADHD. So when I think of the 50 things, I get overwhelmed. And then I don't do any of them for a little bit. And then I go back and then I start working on one or two or three of them. But when my brain starts going and I get too many things on it, like, oh my God, I got to do. So here's an example today. Okay. We've got already like 8 articles up on the site, but I got to write the running back rankings for 2023 recruiting class. So I got to do that. I got to put up probably 4 or 5 Instagram posts. I got to tweet out my podcast from yesterday. Um, later I'll have to download this podcast, tweet this out, upload this to YouTube. I've also got a fact or fiction for tomorrow. I want to do a couple transfer articles. I got to do an Illinois article because I'm working, on the side doing stuff for Illini guys. I got to do a transfer portal article. I'm working for the portal report. I can't remember what else. Oh, I have to promote this NIL app of mine,
there's the
Booster
software
Athletes.
you need. I just touted. This is the software I
Okay.
use.
Notion SO.
Notion.so. It's an app too.
Yeah.
If you but I use it on my computer most of the time, but I have it on my phone because if I'm thinking of something, and it allows me to put all these different it can do anything. It's like you remember, I can't remember the program. There used to be a program like in the 2000s that used to use it, but it was too cumbersome. This is less cumbersome. It's awesome.
What does this help you do?
To do lists that like help you like it basically ends up like it's a big database that you can basically maneuver your own little mini databases for spreadsheets for anything you want. To-do lists, like you have templates of stuff already. I
Yeah.
use it for I hate to-do lists. I hate like I would write things down and cross them off, but I can only write down a few and do it. So I started using this and it tracks my things to do. So
Does it remind you of stuff as well? I mean, are there reminders in here at all?
I haven't used it in that way.
Document editing and sharing,
You probably can.
project management, personal note taking. All right, I just signed up for it. So here's the thing. The other thing is too. I mean, I didn't even talk about the D1 promotion stuff I got to do. There's about 3 of those. Well, no, there's 4 of them minimum. I gotta handle at least 4 of those for our customers. So, like I said, this will probably help me. I'm not going to share this just for myself. This will probably help me. I gotta get organized, but it's also like, I should prioritize things that actually are successful. Like, honestly, I should focus right now solely on the D1 promotion thing because it's a revenue generator, and it's also something that we've seen success with. Um, but I'm so in the weeds with the website. I'm so in the weeds with my social media trying to grow that. And that's like I said, I just don't prioritize. I should have had my 2023 high school football by position rankings out a month ago. I had them done. They're done. They're ready. And I finally got the graphics for them all. It's just sitting down and writing, what about Ruben Owens makes him good is just, to me, it's just, then I got to do wide receivers. If I do running backs, just overwhelming. I'm a mess is what we call it. I'm a mess in many different ways. That's it. Yeah,
Yeah.
no fixing me, man. There's no fixing me. This is how I've been forever. I mean, the difference is when I was running things at my own company, sort of in charge of everybody, I had people to delegate to, and I still have that today. I've got some tremendous, tremendous people that I work with, and I do delegate stuff. But also, I just worked 18 hours a day and then when things slowed down and I became more of a manager, I didn't know what to do with myself. So now I'm back to content creation and less management. And it's kind of like getting into a rhythm. It's like not doing cardio for 4 years and
Mm.
then trying to run a 5K. It's just, no, every day you got to get up and do a little, and then next day do a little bit more. So it'll get better, but I'm a mess.
Let's get to some fun part.
Yeah.
Uh,
About you being a mess isn't fun. What are you talking about?
Well, I can tell you this. I think that I just went to my John Maxwell group for the last 3 days, my leadership conference I went to, and now I'm qualified to coach you on all these aspects of your life.
And you got a heart out at 12:25. So let's talk some college football.
Let's talk it.
Yeah.
Where do we start? Let me ask this question:
Okay.
Is
Ask
it
me the
hard
ask me the
to?
special teams question. Is that what you're going to ask?
Yes, is it hard to prepare your team to protect punt?
No. Well, no, extra point. Is it hard?
Is it hard
So
to protect extra point? Step
you're
down.
you're a coach, and I've been at a billion practices over the years, and so you've always got the focus of the offense and the defense and the position groups and all that other stuff, and then the special teams is over on the side. And what are they doing? And that sometimes they're not on the side, sometimes they're on a field, and you have obviously, field goal and extra point. But what are they doing? All they're doing is snapping and kicking, and all they work on is protection. So for the game, the LSU Florida State game to end with a blocked extra point where nobody was accountable for that guy coming off the edge is unfathomable to me. The two muff punts were bad, but kid got nervous. Obviously, he didn't muff punts in practice, so they would have replaced him. But the fact that you can't protect for an extra point, or the East Carolina game, he hooked an extra point.
How about last night, Georgia Tech?
Yeah,
Georgia
that's
Tech had
true.
two punts blocked. Two.
I don't.
They
I
should
don't.
have had a chance in that game.
It was close at the time. Yeah. I mean, I don't get it. And again, I've learned. So Coach Jerry Peter Kuski was one of my first ever mentors in college football when I started in the late 1990s. He was the special teams coach at Boston College. Okay. And I never had any sort of respect or feel for special teams. I thought it was easy. And he taught me a lot of things about special teams. But his special teams were not Beamer ball special teams. They weren't, they were solid and steady, but they had kicker issues. And I just couldn't understand that that's all you practice, not just in practice, but year round, how those things fall through the cracks. But again, the coach, so Polian is the coach, special teams coach at LSU. He's been with Brian Kelly for a very long time. He's not out there. You send 11 guys out there. One of them could be a complete knucklehead that you've worked on in practice, and he's done it right 100% of the time. And then he trots out there for a big extra point. He's all excited. They just tied the game, and he forgets everything he's supposed to do because he's staring at the cheerleader in the crowd or something. and it becomes your fault as the coach because that bozo didn't get his job done, or the punter, the punt returner drops 2 fair catches because he's nervous. It's a thankless job because you never get credit for hitting an extra point or a field goal to win a game, but you always get the fault. But it's not hard.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna tell you the flip side of my thoughts on this, and having coached for a long time. Now, this is high school, mind you, but I played in college, and I remember how much we did special teams or did not do enough of special teams in some cases, and I thought so. As a high school coach, that was always a focus. I learned that from a guy like when I very first started. Like special teams, it's 1/3 of the game. You have to have treat it as such, right? And always had really good special teams. And what I always used to look for is I love to play a team that paid no attention to special teams, because what would happen is you would get you'd punt, you block a punt, you do this, you get all these things because you'd realize that they were in like some sort of basic alignment. All you gotta do is like it's like oh, I can't remember the movie which it is, but you just look and you're like, who's the guy gonna be? Who's the guy gonna be? Who I'm coming after? Boom, that's the guy, right? I think it might have been Waterboy, right? Who are we picking on? The quarterback gets underneath there, and they're starting to roll before they get to the Bourbon Bowl, and they're trying to figure out who's this little bitch gonna be, and who's this gonna be, and boom, that's who we're going. Well, that's kind of what it happens. Who's the weak part of that group, and you figure that out, and you just go after him full boat, because somebody, if they haven't paid enough attention to the details of special teams. Obviously, college coaches have a million things to do, but that game part of that, if that coach hasn't spent enough attention, there's somebody that's a weak point on that team. And there's someone on the other side, if he's a good special teams guy, really good special teams guy, it's all there. He's telling someone, just find me the weak spot,
Right.
find it, and we're going after you. Go after him 100%, and then that's how you get all of a sudden like you're like, how could this happen? Well, they figure it out. This guy doesn't step down hard enough. He's stepping down in practice, but you realize, was he stepping down as hard as the rest of the guys? Someone's figured that out, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's how I mean, that's kind of how it happens. Same thing with punts getting blocked. Like, first of all, and now I understand why they do it, but I hate that alignment where you have the 3 guys in the back who basically are just absorbing the blow, right? As everyone's sprinting at them, instead of having wings and some sort of stuff up front and just a personal protector. That's how I was taught, and I always found it to be the best way. But they do that where they have the 3 guys protecting, and they have the big line, and every once in a while, somebody either just decides at that moment that he's not going to take the blow,
Yeah.
and he doesn't, step hard enough into the guy coming, or he misses. It's blocked. I mean,
Yeah.
it's always the punt that gets blocked. Is those
Well,
guys with that little wall protection?
well,
In
and you
my
remember
opinion,
that never
more
used to
than-
exist back
it's
when you played. That it wasn't that wall.
no, it wasn't.
It was the punter and 10 guys. And
Right, you had the wings and you had the personal protectors, and you had the 2 guys out wide.
yeah, and sometimes you didn't even have the personal protector. Like I've seen way back, this 100 years ago, where it was just okay. All we have to do, because we expect the snap to get back there in X amount of seconds, and we expect the punt to get off in X amount. All you got to do is have the wall up front and not let anybody through. Now, and those blocks, you remember back in the day, were just usually speed guys
Correct.
who just laid out entirely in front of the football. Now, sometimes you can even block the wall into the punter.
Correct.
It's just, it sets up a lot more problems, or a lot more, but now it's just the trend. It's what everybody does. If you won't find any of those solo personal protector, or much of it, or really no personal protector whatsoever, because that's what everybody did all of a sudden. And what I love is, like, you remember the swinging gate and all that other garbage?
Yep.
Why? Like, what is the point of that? Like, how are you going to fool somebody by having your entire, and then it's like on this, everybody goes into the regular formation. What does that do? It's almost like special teams coaches sometimes get so bored that they try to create a little bit something extra as
Well,
well.
you're trying to get them to protect the special teams. So in college, I don't know if the swinging gate is as effective as in high school. It's definitely effective because people don't practice it. The bottom line is you're trying to make them practice more things than they need to practice, right? So you're right. You can get overly creative to a detriment because you're thinking, if I get them to spend extra time on this, it's taken away. It's all about time, right? Was it college football
Yeah,
limited to how long they could
very limited,
practice?
very limited. But
It's
I still don't believe that is any there's any effect whatsoever. It's almost like you got a special teams coach, and also back in the old days, if you remember, the special team coach always coached another position too.
right. Not
you know,
anymore.
Now it's specialized because you can have more coaches, assistant coaches on the field, and field coaches. Now it's usually just special teams guy, um, and they have so little to do when it comes to repetition. I mean, how many times can you kick an extra point and protect or punt or protect? That sometimes they get overly creative. I forget what game it was. It might have been LSU, Florida State. You had the trio of guys in front of the punter, and one of them moved early. First of all, I still don't see how that's possible. I don't. It's almost like you watch the football and you move when it starts coming back to you. You never move early. What's the point of moving early? So I think they outthink themselves, and I think that can lead to a lot of issues as well. But special teams shouldn't be this hard. But it's college. College kickers suck. You think about it. None of them get drafted, or maybe one or two get drafted every year. And mostly the NFL is filled with guys either the great kickers from college football, and there's a few, or or foreign guys that have soccer style kicking, and maybe were successful. You have Australian rules punters now, like college kickers for 120 Division I football teams. I would say maybe 8 of them are really, really good and reliable.
Mm.
What was the game last night? The kid who kicked a field goal at the end of the first half, or not the end of the first half, in the second quarter of Georgia Tech, he kicked a long field goal. And I heard his stats coming in. Well, he's 1 for 7, and he's 0 for 5 from this distance. I'm like, why the hell is he even kicking? Like, 1 for 7 is not good. And he nailed the field goal, to his credit. But is that how bad we've gotten when it comes to kickers?
My question is, how could that be with all these kicking coaches, long snapping coaches, uh, uh, punting coaches? How could
Yeah.
kicking not? At the NFL, it looks like it's better than ever to me.
Yes, they
So
never miss. They've never, and
they
they
never
move the
miss.
extra point back, which is great because
Right.
now every once in a while, but they never missed an extra point ever, and they never miss field goals.
But college somehow, it's like a hit or miss. It's how can it be a hit or like the NFL better than ever because their evaluation, they're only taking the best. You're only getting a few that make it each year. Literally, a
Yeah,
guy could come off the street who played soccer for his whole entire life, walk in the building, and he already knows how to kick it better than everybody else. I tell people this story all the time. When I was in high school, my junior year, they tried to have I did everything, and they tried to
yeah,
have a kick also. Okay, because I could kick off far. I could kick it off to the end zone, right? But they tried to have me kick extra points. I was the worst extra point kicker in the history of extra points, just because I usually scored the touchdown, and now I'm walking over there and I got to boot it through. I couldn't concentrate. I was like 2 for 8. Well, anyway, to try and make a point of how bad I was, which I already knew how bad I was, they brought in the star in the girls soccer team to have a field goal kicking contest against me.
hmm.
Okay, and I knew her well, and she comes over, and I'm like, oh my god. First of all, I knew she was going to beat me. Okay, because I just knew like I could kick it far, but I wasn't accurate. So she goes, we kick the field extra point. Somehow I made an extra point, which was amazing in this contest. We go back to like 25 yards. I make it. We go back to 30. She makes it. I make it, which was a miracle because I never made anything. Okay. And then we go to 35 yards. She puts it right through the uprights and I miss it. And I said, see, I told you guys you should have this kicker. She should be a kicker.
Yeah, and honestly, it doesn't matter who you are as long as you can get it through the uprights. consistently. Who cares? And kickers don't get scholarships often, and sometimes they do. And you've got
Right.
the Sailors and Coles of the world who make, do a very good job with these guys, and rank them nationally. And it's all just a crapshoot. I remember talking about Jerry Peter Kuski. BC had Steve Aponavicius. Now you might not remember that name, but he was the kid they pulled out of the stands to become their kicker because their regular kicker got in a bar fight because kickers are deep down inside very angry people, and apparently. So he got in a bar fight, and they didn't have a kicker, so they pulled him out. I forget what the fan section was, and he went 2 for 2 in his first game for field goals against Virginia Tech and 2 extra points, and he nicknamed Sid Vicious, and everybody was talking about him like the kicking version of Rudy. Steve Aponavicius proves to everybody he played baseball and soccer. He didn't play football in high school. That sometimes you have a knack for it, and you don't really have to practice because they found this kid. They found this kid like just screwing around at BC, sneaking into the stadium, kicking field goals. And my buddy Jay Savetti was the graduate assistant back then, and he saw the kid, and he went up to Peter Kuski and he said, "I might have our kicker since our kicker just got arrested." And the rest is history. He's one of their all-time leading kickers. So
That's amazing.
Kicking is just it's dumb. Special teams are dumb. It can kill you. It could destroy you. I mean, honestly, Florida State fans were up in arms because they felt they should have won that game by 10 because we outplayed them. I go, okay, well, listen to this. You got 2 muffed punts, inside the 30. One of them was inside the 20. That's gifts handed to you. You had an extra point that was blocked. Like LSU kind of lost that game. Florida State won it, but LSU kind of lost it. So special teams will destroy you. It's so frustrating. This is why I don't like kickers either, and it's not a personal thing. It's just, they're not real football players. You get out there and you punch somebody in the face for 58 minutes and 59 minutes and 50 seconds. And then some kicker trots out who's 150 pounds with a clean white jersey, and he hooks a field goal and you lose the game. It makes you just want to kill somebody. Or he makes the field goal and everybody's like celebrating him and putting him on his shoulders, and he didn't do crap. That I just don't like kickers. Punters, different, but kickers I don't like.
Well, punters traditionally are a little more physical because they want them to be somewhat athletic if they have to do something, right? Tackle, they may do a fake. They prefer them. Sometimes you see a lot of guys who are high school quarterbacks that weren't quite good enough to be a Division I quarterback. They end up being your punter,
Yeah.
So that happens a lot. But speaking of the games, so my take on 2 things. LSU, I think for LSU fans, I think there's no need to worry. Brian Kelly will just I know there are people that don't like him and all that kind of stuff, but I'm just looking at his track record, and the guy has a process of how he goes about things, and it's just going to keep getting better and better, in my opinion. I'm not saying I'm right, but just how he is. Now, recruiting obviously is always your wild card and all this stuff, but as far as the on the field stuff, he's really shown to be I think what he did with ND is pretty amazing. So
very amazing. What he did to Cincinnati before that. I'm gonna argue with you a little bit here, though.
Okay.
The Brian Kelly was at Cincinnati, wanted to get to the next level. He wanted to get to that next job. The Brian Kelly at Notre Dame was really motivated to prove to people that you could recruit and win national championships. And he got to the title game, and he got to the playoff twice. This Brian Kelly, at least the one I saw on the sideline Sunday night, is very, very timid compared to that human being. Now, maybe he's going to be the red-faced crazy person, but so many things went wrong in that game, and Brian Kelly was like, I just don't know. Is he cashing out? Will he really want to be successful at LSU? Recruiting takes care of itself. I could go down to LSU, be named the next head football coach, and I could put together a top 5 recruiting class because the state of Louisiana, unless they go to Alabama, nobody's letting you leave. The story I told you about Leonard Fournette not being allowed to take a visit and cross state lines to Texas, like legit stopped from taking that visit That's how Louisiana works. You're going to get the best kids there. You're going to get kids from Texas. You're going to get kids from the Southeast. You can recruit with your eyes closed. Biggest recruiting advantage in all of college football, LSU. You're going to have talent, but getting that talent to mesh is kind of difficult. We saw it under Les Miles. We saw it a little bit under Ed Orgeron, aside from the 2019 season. We're seeing it already. You got some knuckleheads doing dumb things. You got fluke injuries. You've got dumb plays. You got Keyshawn Booty scrubbing his social media after the game, and he's clearly, evidently upset on the sidelines. You've got a lot of management to do, and you don't have that at Notre Dame. You don't have that type of personality.
Good point.
That you're going to have to deal with. That's petulant, and that I don't want to say, that Brian Kelly would have had trouble at LSU with the Honey Badger or any of those other great players. But it's a different ballgame now. You're not a Louisiana guy. You're a Northeast guy. There's going to be no patience for you whatsoever. Did he take the money and run, or does he really want to win a national championship? The guy I saw Sunday night, I don't think he cared enough.
Mm-hmm. Or you could argue that with so many star players, they are not going to take it if you get in their face like you would at Notre Dame, where those kids most of the Notre Dame kids raised in a situation where, you got to do academics and football. Whereas the LSU kids, they know, a lot of those kids know that they're going to have a great chance to go to the NFL if they do certain things right. And do they want some guy screaming and yelling at them when they know in 2 years, if they at least, play the way they're supposed to play, they're going to go to the NFL. So that meshing, I think the part that you nailed is, can he get them to mesh? And I think that's because, all the external factors that you just mentioned, that could be the issue. And I to me, it looked like this is a guy who hasn't figured it out yet.
Right.
Like,
Day one. Hard to
how
tell.
do I mesh these guys yet? Like, I haven't figured this out.
Yeah.
And that's the question you're right on. Like, will he figure that out? ND is like Grand Valley State, Michigan, Cincinnati, Ohio, Notre Dame, Indiana, all the same area.
Yeah.
All, no matter, obviously they're different levels, but similar. They're northern Midwest kids, right?
He's from the Northeast.
Yep.
And
So that's a different.
You're a Jersey guy. I'm a New England guy. You go down south sometimes, and you're gonna be not shunned, but you're gonna be.
It takes you longer to be accepted.
Yeah, and so is he going to be given that chance? I mean, Ed Orgeron is a Louisiana native, bleeds LSU. That's a different story. Les Miles came from Oklahoma State. That's in the ballpark. This guy's, I don't know. It's going to be a big challenge for him, especially because he tends to get a little defensive when things don't go well. He's a guy who's thrown players on the bus before. I'm really curious to see if this season goes 5-7 and everybody wants him fired after year one, because if they do go 5-7 or 6-6, they're going to want him gone. How he handles it. So that's a really intriguing situation. He's a great coach. And here's the thing. Marcus Freeman did a great job against Ohio State. They were in the game. And I know you got a hard out in 2 minutes, so we'll end this right here. But how's he going to live up to that? How's he going to live up to Brian Kelly taking Notre Dame to a championship game and 2 playoffs? That's a bar that's really, really high, and it's hard to get there at Notre Dame. So Brian Kelly did a great job, but this to me is fish out of water, bad fit type of thing.
Yeah, I you brought up 2 things, because that was the other thing I was thinking about. I thought Marcus Freeman did a really good job. At first, I like Marcus Freeman's. I don't know whether he'll be successful or not, but I like how he carries himself and his demeanor.
Mm-hmm.
So one way or the other, whether it's ND or not, he's going to be successful. I think he's going to be a successful head coach. He's so young.
I think he'll be successful there, but to the level of Brian Kelly, I don't know.
Well, can he win? I mean, I think it's going to be hard because Brian Kelly fit there for a lot of different reasons, even though alumni had some issues with him, like Lou Holtz came out with the whole thing. Like you know, he doesn't read my letters. Like, hello, Lou, send him an email.
Letters. Oh God.
But
Only expressing letters to him.
I think the one thing that was interesting to me about the Ohio State game now is that I really just thought that maybe I'm overvaluing how good their offense has been. I just thought Ohio State was just gonna be able to manhandle ND, and they didn't, and that surprised me. I think that was the major surprise. Like
I'll
there
tell
were
you why.
why?
Here's why. Jackson Smith and Jigba went down really early, and CJ Stroud, still as great a quarterback he is, he's still a lock-on guy. We saw it in the Rose Bowl. He locks on one receiver, and that's who he feeds, and he lost his main, target, and he had to adjust, and he did, but it took him a little while to adjust. I think they're going to be really, really good offensively moving forward, and this was what was needed for them. But I expected them to win by 40 as well.
Yeah, that was surprising. I hate to cut off because usually it's you cutting me off.
Yeah,
But
the way it is. That's fine. I mean, listen, I don't like podcasts. I just don't. I don't know why. I'm verbose and I never shut up. But like the whole talking, I don't know. So let's end it.
great. I thought we covered some really great things. And listen, myfootballcamps.com/D1. Check it out. Everything, our DNs are open. We'll see you next time, next week. And, just keep on each week. This is the best time of the year. So I don't know what else to say. It's college football time. No matter what happens, it's college football time.